We are going to finish today. We're just going to do the summit push and finish quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-tung. It's just such a page turner to me. I find this extremely fascinating. And I decided to read this in order to form an opinion about TikTok and other Chinese products, not only electronic products, but even material products. I'm reading it as I'm reading it to you. I did not read ahead. I did not read this in advance. So as I read it, it unfolds to me as well as to you. First, here is my shout out. My shout out is cobalt blue. I painted part of my home. I got this at, I want to say I got this at Home Depot. I get the Home Depot and Lowe's confused, but I got it at Home Desperate. It's the product, it's the company from Bayer, cobalt blue, and it was a very good, and it's called Compass Blue, MQ5-54, Dynasty Marquee, one coat. And sure enough, this went on very easily. It did. There was a few spots I had to go back over, but I painted over a light valued color and I painted a darker value color, and it just looks absolutely fabulous. Some of my artwork looks amazing with this color behind it. And here is my product placement. My product placement is cornstarch. I'm not much of a cook, and I don't use this to cook with. I couldn't even tell you what to use it for in the kitchen, but I use it as a cosmetic. I don't wear foundation. I don't wear a lot of makeup, and so when I put on sunscreen, it's really greasy, and I brush it on a little cornstarch, so I'm like a powdered donut when I walk around. This works wonders. It makes me look kind of pale at white at first, but once it blends in with the rest of my skin tone, you can't really tell. But it's not messy. It's not toxic. There's nothing in it that can hurt you. And I use cornstarch. It soaks up all the grease from the sunscreen. And then I have friends that have blonde hair, chemically enhanced blonde hair, and when their hair is dirty, you can put cornstarch in the hair, or when your roots are starting to show, a little cornstarch will save the day, at least for a few days. So that's the tip on cornstarch. And I'm sticking to it. And we are going to hurry and just get right to it with this. I just can't wait to finish it. This is quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-tung, and we are up to chapter 28, and the chapter is titled Communists. Okay. A communist should have largeness of mind, and he should be staunch and active, looking upon interest of the revolution as his very life and subordinating his personal interest to those of the revolution. Always and everywhere he should adhere to principle and wage a tireless struggle against all incorrect ideas and actions, so as to consolidate the collective life of the party and strengthen the ties between the party and the masses. He should be more concerned about the party and the masses than about any individual, and more concerned about others than about himself. Only thus can he be considered a communist. Every comrade must be brought to understand that the supreme test of the words and deeds of the communist is whether they conform to the highest interest and enjoy the support of the overwhelming majority of the people. At no time and in no circumstance should a communist place his personal interest first. He should subordinate them to the interest of the nation and the masses. Hence, selfishness, slacking, corruption, seeking the limelight, and so on are most contemptible, while selflessness, working with one's energy, wholehearted devotion to public duty, and quiet, hard work will command respect. Communists must be ready at all times to stand up for the truth, because the truth is in the interest of the people. Communists must be ready at all times to correct their mistakes, because mistakes are against the interest of the people. Communists must always go into the whys and wherefores of anything, use their own heads, and carefully think over whether or not it corresponds to reality and is really well founded. On no account should they follow blindly and encourage slavishness. We should encourage comrades to take the interest of the whole into account. Every party member, every branch of work, every statement, and every action must proceed from the interest of the whole party. It is absolutely impermissible to violate this principle. Communists should set an example in being practical as well as far-sighted. For only being practical can they fulfill the appointed tasks, and only farsightedness can prevent them from losing their bearings in the march forward. Communists should be the most far-sighted, the most self-sacrificing, the most resolute, and the least prejudiced in sizing up situations, and should rely on the majority of the masses and win their support. Communists should set an example in study at all times. They should be pupils of the masses as well as their teachers. Every communist working in the mass movement should be a friend of the masses and not a boss over them, an indefatigable teacher and not a bureaucratic politician. Communists must never separate themselves from the majority of the people or neglect them by leading only a few progressive contingents in an isolated and rash advance, but must take care to forge close links between the progressive elements and the broad masses. This is what is meant by thinking in terms of the majority. We communists are like seeds and the people are like soil. Wherever we go, we must unite with the people, take root, and blossom among them. We communists must be able to integrate ourselves with the masses in all things. If our party members spend their whole lives sitting indoors and never go out to face the world and brave the storm, what good will they be to the Chinese people? None at all, and we do not need such people as party members. We communists ought to face the world and brave the storm, the greatest world of mass struggle and the mighty storm of mass struggle. The exemplary vanguard role of the communist is of vital importance. Communists in the 8th route of the new 4th Army should set an example in fighting bravely, carrying out orders, observing discipline, doing political work, and fostering internal unity and solidarity. A communist must never be opinionated or domineering, thinking that he is good in everything while others are good in nothing. He must never shut himself up in a little room or brag and boast and lord it over others. Communists must listen attentively to the views of people outside the party and let them have their say. If what they say is right, we ought to welcome it and we should learn from their strong points. If it is wrong, we should let them finish what they are saying and then patiently explain things to them. The attitude of communists towards any person who has made mistakes in his work should be one of persuasion in order to help him change and start afresh, and not one of exclusion unless he is incorrigible. As for people who are politically backward, communists should not slight or despise them, but should befriend them, unite with them, convince them, and encourage them to go forward. Now we are up to chapter 29 of Quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-tung. This chapter is called Caters. In order to guarantee that our party and country do not change their color, we must not only have a correct line of correct policies, but must train and bring up millions of successors who will carry on the cause of proletarian revolution. In the final analysis, the question of training successors for the revolutionary cause of the proletariat is one of whether or not there will be people who can carry on the Marxist-Leninist revolution cause started by the older generation of proletarian revolutionaries, whether or not the leadership of our party and state will remain in the hands of proletarian revolutionaries, whether or not our descendants will continue to march along the correct road laid down by Marxist-Leninism, or in other words, whether or not we can successfully prevent the emergence of Khrushchev's revisionisms in China. In short, it is an extremely important question, a matter of life and death for our party and our country. It is a question of fundamental importance to the proletarian revolutionary cause for 100, 1,000, nay, 10,000 years, basing themselves on the changes in the Soviet Union. The imperialist prophets are pining their hopes of peaceful evolution on the third or fourth generation of the Chinese Party. We must shatter these imperialist prophecies. From our highest organizations down to the grassroots, we must everywhere give constant attention to the training and upbringing of successors to the revolutionary cause. What are the requirements for worthy successors to revolutionary cause of the proletariat? They must be genuine Marxist-Leninists and not revolutionists like Khrushchev, wearing the cloak of Marxism and Leninism. They must be revolutionaries who wholeheartedly serve the overwhelming majority of the people of China and the whole world. It must not be like Khrushchev, who serves both the interest of the handful of members of the privileged bourgeois stratum and his own country and those of foreign imperialism and reaction. They must be proletarian statesmen capable of uniting and working together in the overwhelming majority. Not only must they unite with those who agree with them, they must also be good in uniting with those who disagree and even with those who formally oppose them and have since been proved wrong in practice. But they must especially watch out for careerists and conspirators like Khrushchev and prevent such bad elements from usurping the leadership of the party and the state at any level. They must be models in applying the party's democratic centralism, must master their method of leadership based on the principle and from the masses to the masses, and must cultivate a democratic style and be good at listening to the masses. They must not be despotic like Khrushchev and violate the party's democratic centralism, make surprise attacks on comrades, or act arbitrarily and dictatorially. They must be modest and prudent and guard against arrogance and impetuosity. They must be endued with the spirit of self-criticism and have the courage to correct mistakes and shortcomings in their work. They must never cover up their errors like Khrushchev and claim all the credit for themselves and shift all the blame on others. Successors to the revolutionary cause of the people of the proletariat come forward in mass struggles and are tempered in the great storms of revolution. It is essential to test and judge cadres and choose and train successors in the long course of mass struggle. Our party organizations must be extended over all the country, and we must purposefully train tens of thousands of cadres and hundreds of first-rate leaders. They must be cadres and leaders versed in Marxism, Leninism, politically far-sighted, competent in work, full of the spirit and self-sacrifice, capable of tackling problems on their own, steadfast in the midst of difficulties, and loyal and devoted in serving the nation, the class, and the party. It is on these cadres and leaders that the party relies for its links with the membership and the masses, and it is by relying on their firm leadership of the masses that the party can succeed in defeating the enemy. Such cadres and leaders must be free from selfishness, from individualistic heroism, ostentation, sloth, passivity, and arrogant sectarianism, and they must be selfless national and class heroes. Such are the qualities and the style of work demanded of the members, cadres, and leaders of the party. Cadres are a decisive factor. Once the political nine is determined, there it is our fighting task to train large numbers of new cadres in a planned way. The criterion the Communist Party should apply in its cadres parties is whether or not a cadre is resolute in carrying out the party line, keeps the party disciplined, has close ties with the masses, has the ability to find his bearings independently, and is active, hardworking, and unselfish. This is what appointing people on their merit means. It is necessary to maintain the system of cadre participation in collective productive labor. The cadres of our party and state are ordinary workers and not overlords sitting on the backs of the people. By taking part in collective productive labor, the cadres maintain extensive, constant, and close ties with the working people. This is a major measure of fundamental importance for a socialist system. It helps to overcome bureaucracy and to prevent revisionism and dogmatism. We must know how to judge cadres. We must not confine our judgment to a short period or a single incident. in a caterer's life, but should consider his life and work as a whole. This is the principal method of judging caterers. We must know how to use caterers well. In the final analysis, leadership involves two main responsibilities: to work out ideas and to use caterers well. Such things as drawing up plans, making decisions, and giving orders and directives are all in the category of working out ideas. To put the ideas into practice, we must weld the caterers together and encourage them to go into action. This comes into the category of using the caterers well. We must know how to take good care of caterers. There are several ways of doing so. First, give them guidance. This means allowing them a free hand in their work so that they have courage to assume responsibility, and at the same time giving them timely instructions so that, guided by the party's political line, they are able to make full use of their initiative. Second, raise their level. This means educating them by giving them the opportunity to study so that they can enhance their theoretical understanding and their working ability. Third, check up on their work and help them sum up their experience, carry forward their achievements, and correct their mistakes. To assign work without checking up on and to take notice only when serious mistakes are made, that is not the way to take care of caterers. Fourth, in general, use the method of persuasion with caterers who have made mistakes and help them correct their mistakes. The method of struggle should be confined to those who make serious mistakes, and nevertheless use to accept guidance. Here, patience is essential. It is working lightly to label people opportunists or lightly to begin waging struggles against them. Fifth, help them with their difficulties. When caterers are in difficulty as a result of illness, straitened means, or domestic or other troubles, we must be sure to give them as much care as possible. This is how to take good care of caterers. A leading group that is genuinely united and is linked with the masses can gradually be formed only in the process of mass struggle and not in isolation from it. In the process of great struggle, the composition of the leading group in most cases should not and cannot remain entirely unchanged throughout the initial, middle, and final stages. The activists who come forward in the course of the struggle must constantly be promoted to replace those original members of the leading group who are inferior by comparison or have degenerated. If our party does not have a great many new caterers working in unity and cooperation with the old caterers, our cause will come to a stop. All old caterers, therefore, should welcome the new ones with the utmost enthusiasm and show them the warmest solicitude. True, new caterers have their shortcomings. They have been long in the revolution and lack experience, and unavoidably some have brought with them vestiges of the unwholesome ideology of the old society. Remnants of the ideology of petty bourgeois individualism, but such shortcomings can be gradually eliminated through education and tempering in the revolution. The strong point of the new caterers, as Stalin has said, is that they are acutely sensitive to what is new and are therefore enthusiastic and active to a high degree, the very qualities which some of the old caterers lack. Caterers, new and old, should respect each other, learn from each other, and overcome their own shortcomings by learning from each other's strong points, so as to unite as one is in the common cause and guard against sectarian tendencies. Our concern should extend to non-party caterers as well as to party caterers. There are many capable people outside the party whom we must not ignore. The duty of every communist is to rid himself of aloofness and arrogance and to work well with non-party caterers. Give them sincere help, have a warm camaraderie, an attitude toward them, and enlist their initiative in the great cause of resisting Japan and reconstructing the nation. All right, now we are up to Chapter 30 of Quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-tung. Chapter 30 is titled Youth. The world is yours, as well as ours, but in the last analysis, it is yours. You young people, full of vigor and vitality, are in the bloom of life, like the sun at 8 or 9 in the morning. Our hope is placed on you. The world belongs to you. China's future belongs to you. We must help our young people to understand that ours is still a very poor country. that we cannot change this situation radically in a short time, and that only through the united efforts of our younger generation and our people working with their own hands can China be made strong and prosperous within a period of several decades. The establishment of our social system has opened the road leading to the ideal society of the future, but to translate this ideal into reality needs hard work. Because of their lack of political and social experience, quite a number of young people are unable to see the contrast between the old China and the new, and it is not easy for them thoroughly to comprehend the hardship our people went through in the struggle to free themselves from the oppression of the imperialists and the Kuomintang reactionaries, or the long period of arduous work needed before a happy socialist society can be established. That is why we must constantly carry on lively and effective political education among the masses, and should always tell them the truth about the difficulties that crop up and discuss with them how to surmount these difficulties. The young people are the most active and vital force in society. They are the most eager to learn and the least conservative in their thinking. This is especially so in the era of socialism. We hope that the local party organizations in various places will help and work with the Youth League organizations and go into the question of bringing in full play the energy of our youth in particular. The party organizations should not treat them in the same way as everybody else and ignore their special characteristics. Of course, the young people should learn from the old and other adults and should strive as much as possible to engage in all sorts of useful activities with their agreement. How should we judge whether a youth is a revolutionary? How can we tell? There can only be one criterion, namely whether or not he is willing to integrate himself with the broad masses of workers and peasants and does so in practice. If he is willing to do so and actually does so, he is a revolutionary. Otherwise, he is a non-revolutionary or a counter-revolutionary. If today he integrates himself with the masses of workers and peasants, then today he is a revolutionary. If tomorrow he ceases to do so or turns around to oppress the common people, then he becomes a non-revolutionary or a counter-revolutionary. The intellectuals often tend to be subjective and idealistic and practical in their thinking and irresolute in action until they have thrown themselves heart and soul into mass revolutionary struggles or made up their minds to serve the interest of the masses and become one with them. Hence, although the mass revolutionary intellectuals in China can play a vanguard role or serve as a link with the masses, not all of them will remain revolutionaries to the end. Some will drop out of the revolutionary ranks at critical moments and become passive, while a few may even become enemies of the revolution. The intellectuals can overcome their shortcomings only in mass struggles over the long period. Apart from continuing to act in coordination with the party in its central task, the Youth League should do its own work to suit the special characteristics of youth. New China must care for her youth and show concern for growth of the younger generation. Young people have to study and work, but they are at the age of physical growth. Therefore, full attention must be paid both to their work and study and to their recreation, sport, and rest. All right, now we are up to chapter 31 of Quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-tung. Chapter 31 is titled Women. A man in China is usually subjected to the domination of three systems of authority: political authority, clan authority, and religious authority. As for women, in addition to being dominated by these three systems of authority, they are also dominated by the men, the authority of the husband. These four authorities, political, clan, religious, and masculine, are the embodiment of the whole feudal patriarchal ideology and system, and are the four thick ropes binding the Chinese people, particularly the peasants. How the peasants have overthrown the political authority of the landlords in the countryside has been described above. The political authority of the landlords is the backbone of the other systems of authority. With that overturned, the clan authority, the religious authority, and the authority of the husband all began to totter. As the authority of the husband, this has always been weaker among the poor peasants because out of economic necessity, their women folk have to do more manual labor than the women of the richer classes, and therefore have more say and greater power of decision in family matters. With the increasing bankruptcy of the rural economy in recent years, the basis for men's domination over women has already been undermined. With the rise of the peasant movement, the women in many places have now begun to organize rural women's associations. The opportunity has come for them to lift up their heads, and the authority of the husband is getting shakier every day. In a word, the whole feudal patriarchal ideology and system is tottering with the growth of the peasant's power. Unite and take part in production and political activity to improve the economic and political status of women. Protect the interest of the youth, women, and children. Provide assistance to young student refugees. Help the youth and women to organize in order to participate on the equal footing in all work useful to the war effort and to social progress. Ensure freedom of marriage and equality as between men and women, and give young people and children a useful education. In agricultural production, our fundamental task is to adjust the use of labor power in an organized way and to encourage women to do farm work. In order to build a great socialist society, it is of the utmost importance to arouse the broad masses of women to join in the productive activity. Men and women must receive equal pay for equal work and production. Genuine equality between the sexes can only be realized in the process of socialist transformation of society as a whole. With the completion of agricultural cooperation, many cooperatives are finding themselves short of labor. It has become necessary to arouse the great mass of women who did not work in the fields before to take their place on the labor front. China's women are a vast reserve of labor power. This reserve should be tapped in the struggle to build a great socialist country. Enable every woman who can work to take her place on the labor front under the principle of equal pay for equal work. This should be done as quickly as possible. Now we are up to chapter 32 of Quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-tung, and chapter 32 is titled Culture and Art. In the world today, all culture and literature and art belong to definite classes and are geared to definite political lines. There is in fact no such thing as art for art's sake. Art that stands above classes, art that is detached from our independent in politics, proletarian literature, and art are part of the whole proletarian revolutionary cause. They are, as Lenin said, cogs and wheels in the whole revolutionary machine. Revolutionary culture is a powerful revolutionary weapon for the broad masses of the people. It prepares the ground ideologically before the revolution comes, and is an important, indeed essential fighting front in the general revolutionary front during the revolution. All our literature and art are for the masses of the people, and in the first place for the workers, peasants, and soldiers. They are created for the workers, peasants, and soldiers, and are for their use. Our literature and art workers must accomplish this task and shift their stand. They must gradually move their feet over the side of the workers, peasants, and soldiers to the side of the proletariat. Through the process of going into their very midst and into the thick and practical struggles, and through the process of studying Marxism in society, only in this way can we have a literature and art that are truly for the workers, peasants, and soldiers, a truly proletarian literature and art. Our purpose is to ensure that literature and art fit well into the whole revolutionary machine as a competent part. That they operate as a powerful weapon for uniting and educating the people and for attacking and destroying the enemy, and that they help the people fight the enemy with one heart and one mind. In the literary and art criticism, there are two criteria, the political and the artistic. There is the political criterion and there is the artistic criterion. What is the relationship between the two? Politics cannot be equated with art, nor can a general work outlook be equated with a method of artistic creation and criticism. We deny not only that there is an abstract and absolutely unchangeable political criterion, but also that there is an abstract and absolutely unchangeable artistic criterion. Each class and every class society has its own political and artistic criteria. But all classes and all class societies invariably put the political criterion first and the artistic criterion second. What we demand is the unity of politics and art, the unity of content and form, the unity of revolutionary political content in the highest possible perfection of artistic form. Works of art which lack artistic quality have no force, however progressive they are politically. Therefore, we oppose both works of art with a wrong political viewpoint and the tendency toward the poster and slogan style, which is correct in political viewpoint, but lacking in artistic power. One question of literature and art we must carry on a struggle on two fronts. Letting 100 flowers blossom and 100 schools of thought contend is the policy of promoting the progress of the arts and the sciences and a flourishing socialist culture in our land. Different forms and styles in art should develop freely, and different schools and science should contend freely. We think that it is harmful for the growth of art and science if administrative measures are used to impose one particular style of art or school of thought and to ban another. Questions of right and wrong in the arts and sciences should be settled through free discussion in artistic and scientific circles and through practical work in these fields. They should not be settled in summary fashion. An army without culture is a dull-witted army, and a dull-witted army cannot defeat the enemy. So now we are up to chapter 33 of Quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-tung. Chapter 33 is titled Study. In transforming a backward agricultural China into an advanced industrialized country, we are confronted with arduous tasks, and experience is far from adequate. So we must be good at learning. Conditions are changing all the time, and to adapt one's thinking to new conditions, one must study. Even those who have a better grasp of Marxism and are comparatively firm in their proletarian stand have to go on studying, have to absorb what is new, and study new problems. We can learn what we did not know. We are not only good at destroying the old world, we are also good at building the new. Now, there are two different attitudes toward learning from others. One is the dogmatic attitude of transplanting everything, whether or not it is suited to our conditions. This is no good. The other attitude is our heads and learn those things which suit our conditions. That is, to absorb whether experience is useful to us. That is the attitude we should adopt. Hi, Fitness Frank. The theory of Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin is universally applicable. We should regard it not as a dogma, but as a guide to action. Studying it is not merely a matter of learning terms and phrases, but of learning Marxism, Leninism, as the science of revolution. It is not just a matter of understanding the general laws derived by Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Stalin from their extensive study of real life and revolutionary experience, but of studying their standpoint, method, and examining and solving problems. If we have a correct theory but merely prate about it, pigeonhole it, and do not put it into practice, then that theory, however good, is of no significance. It is necessary to master Marxist theory and apply it. Master it for the sole purpose of applying it. If you can apply the Marxist-Lenin viewpoint in elucidating one or two practical problems, you should be commended and credited with some achievement. The more problems you elucidate, and the more comprehensively and profoundly you do so, the greater will be your achievement. How is Marxism-Leninist theory to be linked with the practice of the Chinese Revolution? To use a common expression, it is by shooting the arrow at the target. As the arrow is to the target, so is Marxism-Leninism to the Chinese Revolution. Some comrades, however, are shooting without a target, shooting at random, and at such people are liable to harm the revolution. Those experienced in work must take up the study of theory and must read seriously. Only then will they be able to systemize and synthesize their experience and raise it to the level of theory. Only then will they not mistake their partial experience with universal truth and not commit empiricism errors. Reading is learning, but applying is also learning, and more important kind of learning at that. Our chief method is to learn warfare through warfare, A person who has had no opportunity to go to school can also learn warfare. He can learn through fighting in war. A revolutionary war is a mass undertaking. It is often not a matter of first learning and then doing, but of doing and then learning, for doing is itself learning. There is a gap between ordinary civilian and the soldier, but it is no great wall, and it can be quickly closed by the way to close it is to take part in revolution. In war, by saying that it is not easy to learn and to apply, we mean that it is hard to learn thoroughly and to apply skillfully. By saying that civilians can very quickly become soldiers, we mean that it is not difficult to cross the threshold. To put the two statements together, we must cite the Chinese adage, nothing in the world is difficult for one who sets his mind to it. To cross the threshold is not difficult, and mastery too is possible, provided one sets one's mind to the task and is good at learning. We must learn to do economic work from all who know how, no matter who they are. We must esteem them as teachers, learning from them respectfully and conscientiously. We must not pretend to know when we do not know. Knowledge is a matter of science, and no dishonesty or conceit whatsoever is permissible. What is required is definitely the reverse, and honesty and modesty. Complacency is the enemy of study. We cannot really learn anything until we rid ourselves of complacency. Our attitudes toward ourselves should be to insatiable in learning, and toward others to be tireless in teaching. Some people have read a few Marxist books and think themselves quite learned, but what they have read has not penetrated, has not struck root in their minds, so that they do not know how to use it, and their class feelings remain as of old. Others are very conceited, and having learned some book phrases, think themselves terrific and are very cocky. But whenever a storm blows up, they take a stand very different from that of the workers and the majority of the peasants. They waver while the latter stand firm. They equivocate while the latter are forthright. In order to have a real grasp of Marxism, one must learn it not only from books, but mainly through class struggle, through practical work and close contact with the masses of workers and peasants. When in addition to reading some Marxist books, our intellectuals have gained some understanding through close contact with the masses of workers and peasants, and through their own practical work, we will all be speaking the same language, not only the common language of patriotism and the common language of the socialist system, but probably even the common language of the communist world outlook. If that happens, all of us will certainly work much better. Wow, that is the end of Quotations from Chairman Mao Tse-tung. And that was amazing. I saw Fitness Frank tuned in. How are you, Fitness Frank? I haven't seen you in a while. I was thinking about you the other day. I haven't been able to work out properly because I haven't seen your workout videos. So let's get pumping, Frank. Let's get this. This is my shout out. It's blue. I painted part of my house this color. It is Wonderful Bear. I got it at Home Desperate. And it went on just as it says it would, one coat. I mean, I did have to go over some spots because I painted a dark value over a light value. This is Dynasty Marquee, Compass Blue, MQ5-54, PS3-7. I love this color. It really, really made a difference on the look and feel of my home. And it will be featured in many of YouTube videos coming up. You will find this color a lot. And this is my product placement, cornstarch. I do not cook very often, and I couldn't tell you anything to use this for in the kitchen and like food-wise. But I use it on my face. I use it as a cosmetic. When I put on sunscreen, it's really gritty and goopy. And I just brush a little cornstarch over that, and it soaks up all the grease. And it doesn't make me look like a ghost for long. It kind of blends in with my complexion. So that's cornstarch. That's my beauty secret. I don't wear foundation or any other kind of colored powder. I don't really consider that healthy. I think it's too much chemicals on the face. But this is very inert. It's not going to hurt you. And we have been reading this. And I think the words speak for themselves. I found the chapter on art and culture very interesting. I'm an artist, a visual artist and performing artist, and that this topic comes up a lot amongst my artist friends, and the reason with in terms of figurative art, I'm a big fan of figurative art. That means art where the image is of a human. So you would see like a Leonardo da Vinci or a lot of religious art. I really love religious art where the artwork is of a human being, a sculpture of a human being. It's not necessarily abstract, but although abstract artists like de Kooning, even Picasso, did many abstract work that were figurative in nature, but they had to learn how to draw. They had to have draftsman skills in order to be able to produce abstract work, because as Picasso says, you have to learn the rules in order to break the rules. But communist art is social realism art. So if you've ever, even if you just watch Rick Steves' Europe and he goes through former Eastern Germany or places that have communist art, even if you've been to Mexico and you've seen a lot of Diego Rivera, Frida Kahlo, and other of the muralists in Mexico, that's communist art because it's figurative in nature, but the art represents the common cause of the people. It shows very idealistic citizens working for the common good of their country. And art in those cultures is not for art's sake. Whereas art in our culture, a lot of times the art in our culture is simply for art. It's simply to decorate. It's simply to look pretty, such as when you, and then like Baroque or Rococo, it's very frilly and lacy looking and lots of cherubs and frilliness and Corinthian columns and all it. But as you get more toward World War II, art became minimal and it became more, for the sake of art, it didn't look like anything like a Mark Rothko or de Kooning. I really like the Hudson River Valley painters like Arthur Dove, but they painted and worked realistically, but their work evolved into more abstract work because it was not about promoting the social cause as it was about making art for art's sake. So I found the chapter on art to be interesting just because I myself am an artist. But overall, you know, I feel like he's missing one common element. I know in China they're not allowed to have religion. They're not allowed to have faith in God. That God always wins. What can I say? God speaks for himself. God always wins. But I've been reading this book. I did get another book by Mao Tse-tung on his military. I'll probably just read that one to myself. I won't read it for YouTube. I feel like if you're interested more in the communist, this information, you'll look into it yourself. Most libraries have a collection of his work, or you can request your library to order it from another library. A lot of libraries will do that for you for no charge. It doesn't cost a thing, and sometimes they'll order something from a library that's in another state. It just depends. If you have access to a research library, like the big library on Fifth Avenue and 52nd, Fifth Avenue and in Times Square, 42nd Street, then that's a fabulous library. You won't be able to take the book away from the library, but if you want to sit in the most amazing room you'll ever sit in, you can read it there in the reading room, or you can request the library to ship it to your local library in your neighborhood, and you can check it out. I highly recommend. That's a huge shout out for libraries, by the way. Libraries, whoop, whoop. But we've been reading that. I would hope you consider or reconsider your use of TikTok and of other Chinese products. I know at times when we go to the store to purchase an item, there's not a lot we can choose from. It's all made in China. And what can you do? You can search high and low for products that aren't made in China, and it's virtually impossible for some items. In addition to finding clothing that is made 100% of natural fibers, that's a very difficult task also. Even if it says 100% cotton, it is not 100% cotton. The thread is polyester, and other embellishments or plastic buttons, whatever. We just live in this world now, and what can I say? But we do have a choice, and I would hope you reconsider TikTok and other Chinese products. I saw on the news, just briefly, I had the news on earlier, and they said that the Congress in the United States has banned all government issue devices from being able to download TikTok onto them. So if you work for Congress, or you are a Congress member, your device that is issued to you from the US government is no longer going to be able to use TikTok, and that's good news in my opinion. Once you download these apps, not just TikTok, but all the apps that are on your devices, you allow them permission to use your metadata, to use your phone number to ghost call other phones. You give them carte blanche to do anything, and they get inside your head. They affect your heart and your mind. You can choose to play along, and you don't have to play along. You can still smartly use these items to your benefit, and you can smartly do things. It takes a lot of effort, but you can do it. There's a lot online that can show you how, even YouTube videos. But I'm so happy to see you. It's just a wonderful day when I get to spend time with you. I hope that you leave me a comment and leave me something in the chat so I know you were here. I saw Fitness Frank, which is a fabulous channel. I haven't seen you in a while. I will go and look you up and see if you've done anything new so I can get my fitness on and my pump it up. And I will get on with the day. I hope you guys have a marvelous day. Happy New Year. We finished this, so it's time for me to go back to the library. I'm going to hopefully find something funny. Maybe I can get a book. Steve Martin is a really fabulous writer. I've read quite a few of his stories, so maybe I can find one of his. He has a short story that the punchline was he was smart enough to not join Mensa. I think that a lot. I'm smart enough to not join Mensa. But give me a shout, let me know what you're up to, leave me a comment, leave me something in the chat. I will set you to moderator, and I will visit your channel and watch your videos, and I will keep you in my heart and my prayers and my mind. And have a wonderful day, my YouTube friends.